Once again, jumbo everybody, and welcome to Kilimanjaro Safaris. My name is Adam, and I will be your safari guide throughout our journey today into the Harambe Wildlife Preserve. Now, a couple of quick things before we get started. As a reminder, folks, make sure to remain fully seated, keeping your hands, arms, feet, legs, anything else you'd like to take home with you today inside the truck at all times. And as a courtesy to the animals, please do not shout at them, call to them, whistle at them, do anything that otherwise might get their attention. Remember, they live here, and we're just visiting. Now, we're going to start things off today here in the Little Ituri Forest. Now, the forest is a great place to find lots of animals who are very good at camouflage. So keep your eyes peeled. You never know who you might see. For example, over on the right-hand side, that stripy animal back there, that is an okapi. Now, with the stripes on their legs, you might think okapis would be related to zebras, but they're actually the only known relative of giraffes. Now, we know they're related to giraffes because they both have very similar skull structures, and they both have what we call prehensile tongues, which basically means they can use their tongue to pick things up, grab things with it, which is pretty cool. Now, when Western colonizers first arrived in Africa, they thought the okapi was a mythical creature. They thought the locals had just made it up. It wasn't until 1901 we had our first documented sighting of an okapi by the Western world. Speaking of animals that are definitely real, over on the right-hand side, you can kind of see the very tippy top of a bird there in their nest. That is a saddle-billed stork. Saddle-billed storks actually have one of the largest wingspans of any bird. A wingspan of about 9 feet, about 2.5 meters. It's about as wide as this truck. And they are one of the bird species that do mate for life, so their mate is probably around here somewhere, I would assume. Where else would they be? Everybody else is feeling particularly camouflagey today. Over on the left-hand side, you can see some light brown antelopes there up on the hill. Now, those are greater kudus. Now, you notice they have these white stripes on their back. That's to help them better blend into the thick foliage of the forest, make it easier for them to hide from predators. That being said, they are missing something that's characteristic of a lot of antelopes, and that is they're missing horns. Or at least those greater kudus are missing horns, because greater kudus are one of the very few antelope species in which the females do not have horns, until they are indeed female. As we come to the other side of this hill, we're going to be heading out of the Little Ituri Forest and coming into the Safi River. Now, Safi is another Swahili word, means clear, and I'm sure this river was clear at some point. If you look over on the right, actually, looks like there's a couple of hippos down there. Very noisy hippos. So that noise you just heard just now, that's a wheeze honk. Yes, that is a scientific term. What's funny about that is that it really is a scientific term. Now, in addition to the hippos, you also saw those big gray birds down there. Those are called pink-backed pelicans. Yes, I did say that the gray birds were called pink-backed. They get their name because during mating season, they will turn a lovely shade of pink, and they'll use that to help them find a mate. Now, if you missed the hippos on the right, keep an eye out here on the left as we go by, especially in the water. Hippos are what we call semi-aquatic mammals, meaning they're going to spend most, but not all of their time underwater. In fact, the hippo's closest living relative, believe it or not, is the whale. We know they're related to whales because they both have very similar bone structures. And hippo's nostrils actually function very similar to a whale's blowhole. They're able to shut completely when the hippo's underwater and then open back up when they come up for air, which they only need to do about once every 8 minutes or so. And they can even do that while they sleep. So hippos will sometimes sleep underwater. They'll periodically come up for air, go right back down, all without ever waking up. Now, like I said, they spend most of their time underwater. Now, you think with all that time they spend underwater, though, they'd be pretty good swimmers. But actually, they can't swim. All that time they're underwater, they're either floating on the surface or walking around on the bottom of the riverbed. Kind of like that one's doing right just now. Now, some animals that definitely can swim, though, would be the Nile crocodiles that we see down on the left. Nile crocodiles, they are the largest species of crocodile in the world. They can get up to about 16 to 20 feet tall, or about 5.5 to 6 meters. It's about as long as a giraffe is tall.
It's big.
Nile crocodiles, they are ambush predators, meaning they're going to lie completely motionless, sometimes for hours at a time, just waiting for an unsuspecting snap to drop by. And the way to tell the difference between a crocodile and an alligator, crocodiles have V-shaped jaws, whereas alligators have U-shaped jaws. Also, when crocodiles have their mouths closed, you can still see some of their teeth sticking out, whereas alligators have all their teeth hidden. Coming up on the right-hand side, this funky-looking tree here, it's called a baobab tree, also known as an upside-down tree. It has branches look a little bit like roots. Looks like somebody put the tree in upside down. Now, baobab trees are going to go leafless for about 9 months out of the year as a way to conserve water. But a lot of animals know that, so they treat the baobab kind of like a giant water jug. But here in Harambe, seeing that baobab tree means we are coming up to the Savannah. Now, the Savannah is the largest area here on the reserve. It's home to many of the free-roaming animals. Make sure to have those cameras out and ready. Also, make sure to hold on to them nice and tight, because anything you drop here, guess what? I cannot stop the truck to go and get it. Now, a lot of people underestimate just how big the Savannah truly is. It covers an area roughly the size of the continental United States. It spans over 27 African nations. So, many different animals, including I do see a couple of wildebeests here immediately to our right. And the word wildebeest, that is an Afrikaans word, means wild beast. Yeah, they didn't think too hard on that one. That's, of course, a relatively small herd of wildebeests, but when they have their annual Great Migration, they're going to move in a herd of about 1.5 million. Now, that does make them the second most densely populated animals in the world, second only to us humans. Over here on the left-hand side, you see a pack of African painted dogs. Now, African painted dogs are one of the most successful hunters in the animal world. They have a success rate of about 90 to 95%. Now, for comparison, a lion's success rate is only about 30%. So they are very, very efficient hunters. And in every pack of African painted dogs, there is one alpha male and one alpha female. They will run the pack together as equals. Over here on the left-hand side as well, you can also see some dark brown antelopes there toward the back. Those are sable antelopes. Now, sable antelopes are really cool because they are the only antelope species that will actually fight back against predators instead of simply running away. What they'll do, the strongest members of the herd will surround everybody else. They'll stick those big horns out as a warning to any predators to say, hey, these are really sharp. Don't mess with us. So we also do see a giraffe coming up here pretty close to us on the left-hand side, actually. Now, as we go by, try and get a look at their tongue. You'll notice their tongue is a very dark blue, almost black color. That's because giraffes spend so much time eating, they have to worry about their tongue getting sunburnt. So they naturally evolved a very dark-colored tongue to help prevent that from happening. Of course, that begs the question, how much do you have to eat to worry about your tongue getting sunburnt? Well, about 18 hours a day. That's how much giraffes are going to spend eating. Another view of the wildebeest here. I was talking about that wildebeest migration. That's an absolutely massive event every year on the Savannah. It's going to take them about 1,000 miles, about 1,600 kilometers across the Savannah. Nobody knows quite what triggers it, though. As far as we can tell, a couple of wildebeest start walking. Everybody else just sort of follows suit. Why did they start? I haven't quite figured that one out yet. Over on the right-hand side, these longhorn cattle, these are Ankoli cattle, also known as Watusi cattle, after the Watusi tribe that first domesticated them. Now, those big horns, they might look really heavy, but they're not as heavy as you might think. They're only about 10 to 20 pounds, or about 5 to 10 kilos. That's because inside they're built with a honeycomb structure. It not only keeps them lightweight, but also allows for blood vessels in there that'll help keep them cool. And yes, they are related to the Texas Longhorns. Also here on the right, you see these small light brown little guys. These are actually my favorite animals on the reserve. These are springboks. Now, they get their name because their incredible jumping ability. They can jump up to 6 feet high and up to 13 feet long in a single bound. It's about 2 meters high and about 4 meters long. Now, for reference, that is like a full-grown adult being able to jump all the way over this truck with room to spare. Pretty impressive leg strength. See a few more of the giraffes here as we go by. Maybe get another view of that tongue that I was talking about. Now, giraffes, pretty famously, the tallest animals on land. They can get up to about 16 to 20 feet tall, or about 5.5 to 6 meters when they're fully grown. When they're first born, though, they are a mere 6 feet or 2 meters tall. And the first thing a giraffe experiences in their life is a 6-foot drop down to the ground, because giraffes give birth standing up. Now, that may sound like a rough way to start your life. That initial drop, though, is actually what helps to kickstart their lungs, helps them to be up and walking within 15 minutes of birth. Very fast learners, giraffes. And despite their famously long necks, giraffes actually have the same number of vertebrae in their necks as we have in ours, namely 7 of them. It's just that their neck vertebrae are about 20 times longer than ours. And in addition to having the largest necks out of any land animal, giraffes also have the largest hearts out of any land animal. Heart's about 2 feet tall, or about half a meter. It's a little bit hard to see, but if you look over to the left, I think they just went behind there. That was a mandrill, the largest species of monkey in the world. We know that mandrills are monkeys, not apes, because monkeys have tails, whereas apes do not. Pretty good way to tell them apart. Now, with the mandrill specifically, they also have an extra little flap of skin in their cheeks to allow them to store excess food in there, kind of like a chipmunk. Really cute. Now, the mandrill males are also well known for their very brightly colored faces, usually in very bright shades of red and blue, which might be a little bit familiar to you if you're a fan of The Lion King. That's because our friend Rafiki, he is a mandrill. Now, going back to the giraffes for a little bit, because I got nothing else to talk about, and I have a microphone. I can talk about whatever I want. When Western colonizers first arrived in Africa, of course, they had never seen a giraffe before. They didn't know what to call it. So the name they came up with, leopard camel. I'll give them points for creativity on that one. Now, this green animal here to our left, that's not an animal, that's a 4-wheeler. Come on, you guys knew that? Actually, that's a 6-wheeler, my bad. Even I didn't know that. Now, that does belong to the animal programs team. You'll oftentimes see them around the reserve. They're the ones that take care of all the animals' day-to-day needs, making sure everybody's well-fed, making sure their area's clean, they get any medical attention they might need. They're the ones that take care of all that. So they do a lot of very valuable work here. Really appreciate that.
Oh, we're gonna wait. We have to wait for the elephant.
Let's see what else we got coming up. Around this time of day, I always like to play my favorite game. Is that an animal or is it a rock? So far, the rocks are winning. And apparently, even in the wilds of Africa, we still have traffic problems. So for those of you in the back who can't really see, right now we're not moving. But you probably didn't need to be in the back to need me to tell you that. Normally when this happens, that means there's an animal somewhere in the road up ahead of us. I can't really see too far ahead, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Of course, all the animals here do have the right-of-way. Some of them really like to take advantage of that. I would say we work around their schedules. They could not care less about ours. Oh, One of the things we do take very seriously here at Animal Kingdom, not just in Kilimanjaro, but at all of Animal Kingdom, is that we are not going to make the animals do anything that they themselves do not want to do. So if it's a case like this, when there is an animal in the middle of the road like this, they're going to move whenever they are good and ready. Now we may entice them, we may encourage them to move with a reward of a food variety. But ultimately, it is their choice, and again, that is something that we do take very seriously here. Where it was, I just decided to move out. Now, just goes to show you, anything can happen in the movies. Sorry, wrong ride. I get confused sometimes. Coming up on the left, we are passing by a flamboyance of greater flamingos. Yes, that is the actual name for a group of flamingos. Flamboyance. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But for now, I was wondering if they were going to show up. They are. Look over to the left, way toward the back. There is an elephant back there. And that elephant is my saving grace. Otherwise, I would have no idea what to talk about during this slowdown. Some of those elephants are kind of flapping their ears back and forth. They're doing it right now. They do that for exactly the reason you'd think, and that is to help keep them cool. In fact, when an elephant flaps their ears, they can lower their body temperature by as much as 30 degrees Fahrenheit or about 15 Celsius.
Yeah.
Pretty effective natural air conditioning.
See the flamingo?
Again, like I was saying, this is a flamboyance of greater flamingos. Again, actual name for a group of flamingos, flamboyance. And when flamingos are first born, they're actually kind of a drab, grayish color. They turn that famous shade of pink thanks to all the brine shrimp they like to eat. Brine shrimp is very heavy in something called beta-carotene, and the more of that they eat, the pinker they become. Now you might be wondering, why do flamingos only stand on one leg? Well, if so, keep wondering.
Maybe,
Nobody really
I don't
knows.
know.
Now, there are a couple of hypotheses. Some believe that it helps with blood flow to their legs. Others believe that it makes them more agile, so they can more easily turn around, grab more shrimp. And others believe that's just a way for them to rest the other leg. That way neither one gets too tired. Probably some combination of all three. Coming up here on the left, we are passing by a crash of white rhinos. Now, white rhinos, they are the largest species of rhinos in the world. And their name actually has nothing to do with their color, though. It comes from a misunderstanding of the Afrikaans word "veit," which means wide. It refers to their wide snout. It's much wider than their smaller cousins, the black rhinos, who themselves are not black. Go figure. Now, also unlike the black rhinos, white rhinos, as you see here, very social animals. They're going to be in groups of anywhere from about 2 up to 10, all hanging out together. And like I said, a group of rhinos is called
a rhino, not a dinosaur.
They're beautiful animals, not the most graceful.
Look, I mean, look.
I just want to see a whole bunch of most of the crash hanging out together. Also over on the left, he's got a pair of cheetahs up there on the hill.
Oh, look at the cheetah.
Now, cheetahs, pretty famously the fastest animals on land. They can get up to about 60 miles an hour, at 100 kilometers an hour at top speed. However, they can't really maintain that speed for too long, usually just a few seconds or so. And it takes them almost 30 minutes just to recover. So they don't like to go that fast if they can avoid it. Now, cheetahs are pretty unique among big cats. For one thing, they do most of their hunting during the daytime. Most other big cats are nocturnal hunters. In fact, we think that's why they have those patches of black fur around their eyes. Kind of helps reduce the glare of the sun, almost like an athlete wearing eye black. They also have non-retractable claws, so their claws are always out and ready. In fact, their paws are actually more similar to that of a dog rather than a cat. They're also the only species of big cats that cannot roar, although they can purr, and it's adorable. Now, while they don't roar, they will make a sort of a loud kind of a chirping noise. Seems to me it kind of sounds like a bird. And that's going to be how they'll communicate with each other over long distances, usually with mothers and their cubs. You may have seen there's that cheetah's kind of in the second area. I was kind of walking around a little bit. They're kind of swinging their tail. When they're running, you usually see that tail swinging much more vigorously. They do that for two reasons. Number one, it's to help them to stay balanced, so it acts sort of like a counterweight to them as they're moving their legs. They also do it as a way to help change direction, use it kind of like a rudder. That way they don't have to slow down too much. Two more of the white rhinos here, pretty close. Now you'll notice both these rhinos, all the rhinos we've seen so far, they look pretty dirty. Well, that's very much intentional on their part. See, rhinos have very sensitive skin. They're very easily sunburnt. So what they'll do, they'll roll around in the mud, nice and dirty. And the mud will act sort of like a natural form of sunscreen, help keep their skin safe on a sunny day like today. As I said, cheetahs are the only species of big cats that cannot roar. But you know who can roar? Well, that would be the African lion. So them hanging out up there on the left. Now, lions are going to be inactive like this for most of the day. They're usually going to be resting about 16 to 20 hours or so every day. When they are up and about, though, it is the females like this one. They're going to be the ones that do the hunting. Males, on the other hand, they're going to stay back and guard the territory. And if there are any, they'll also protect the cubs as well. Over here on the left, pass by a trio of warthogs. Now, warthogs, they're the largest burrowing animals in the world. You can see some of those burrows down there on the bottom. What they'll do, they use their tusks to help them dig a burrow. Sometimes they'll just enlarge one that another animal made. Once they've got it to their liking, they will back in, leave those tusks sticking out as a precaution against any potential predators.
I think those are fangs, not horns.
Now, warthogs are what we call opportunistic omnivores, which is a fancy way of saying, well, they'll eat anything they can find. Most of the time, that means things like roots and grass and stuff like that, though they have been known to sample the occasional small animal. And like the Lion King taught us, they do like to eat bugs. Down here on the right, we got a small nest of ostrich eggs. Now, you may have heard that ostriches stick their heads in the sand when they get scared. Well, they don't. That's one of those old animal myths. They will, however, stick them in the sand when making their nests. What will happen is the male, he'll be the one to dig the nest with his beak, and then once the eggs are laid, the female will periodically go in and rotate the eggs to make sure they get an even amount of heat. So if you ever see an ostrich with their head in the sand, it's not because they're scared, they're just expecting parents. Or maybe they're scared to be parents, I guess we'll never know. Now, real quick, we're going to swing by the Magadi Glen, home to the Warden's Post, and our send-off committee of Nigerian dwarf goats. Now, as small as these guys are, this is them fully grown. They are not going to get any bigger than that. Nigerian dwarf goats are really great to have around the house for a couple of reasons. For one thing, they produce milk. Goat's milk is a lot sweeter than cow's milk, so a lot of people really enjoy that. Plus, they will eat just about anything. So a lot of people use them as a sort of natural lawn mower. So you get a nice, well-manicured lawn, and your goats, well, they get a nice lunch. Win-win for everybody. Sadly, though, passing by the Warden's Post does mean that our safari is coming to an end. I do hope you guys enjoyed your time here today. That was a little bit longer than any of us were anticipating, so I do appreciate your patience with that. If you guys do have any last-minute questions before we go, feel free to shout them out. I'll do the best I can to answer them for you. Now, if you want to see some more animals, or maybe see a different view of some of the ones we already saw today, you can head next door to the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. Over there, you can get a different view of the hippos, the okapis, as well as naked mole rats, meerkats, monkeys, and, of course, gorillas. It's also a good place to pick up some more of those Wilderness Explorer badges. Speaking of, you all have been riding the Simba 1, S-I-M-B-A 1. If you're a Wilderness Explorer, you'll know what that means. Now, if you're feeling particularly adventurous, you can head on over to Asia. Over there, you can visit the Maharaja Jungle Trek. They have some really cool Asian animals that, of course, we do not have here in Africa, including Komodo dragons, fruit bats, and even tigers. Quick housekeeping note on those two trails. They are both going to be open tonight until 6:30. It's about an hour, a little over an hour from now. That is plenty of time to get on over there and do both of them. But again, just do make sure you give yourself enough time. It's about a 15-20 minute walk through both of them. Again, 6:30, about an hour from now for both the trails. But folks, no matter where you all are headed to next, we do hope you enjoy the rest of your time here at Animal Kingdom. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two while you were here. But if nothing else, folks, we hope you're leaving with a greater appreciation for all the animals that share our planet, and indeed the planet as a whole. Now, we've talked about a couple of Swahili words today. I'll leave you guys with one final Swahili phrase, and that is kwaherini. See, around here we don't like to say goodbye, so instead we say kwaherini, which means go well. So I hope you'll go well this afternoon. Those of you on the left-hand side,